Hello everyone, this is the Atheist Ranger, and this is VLA Sunday number 5. Normally I would have people here, but I guess, you know, guess they were busy. No problem. I don't mind doing it solo. So I got some stories for you people tonight. Hope you enjoy. We hope you enjoy the stupidity. Yeah, sorry I'm late. I got caught up watching a movie. I don't know what it is, but I really love the LGBT love movies. So let's dive right in here. We have, I'm really going to torture you guys tonight. We have Rafael Cruz saying this ridiculous shit, which is the new religion of America is secularism, which doesn't make any fucking sense.
Someone would say, a critic would say, it sounds like you're advocating a theocracy. It sounds like you're talking about Christians taking over and imposing their religion on America. I know that's not what you believe. I know that's not what your son believes. So
That's exactly what him and his son believes. They've made it very clear that they want to violate the Constitution and they want Christian in every single aspect of the government. So that's exactly what they're advocating for.
what's the difference between what you're saying and imposing some kind of theocracy?
Well, we're not talking about a theocracy. We're talking about people who have been the background of America, the moral fiber of America, have been divorced from the political process. We have had over 50% of evangelicals not even voting. So you have a large percentage of the population that have been absent for the political process. All we are saying is we need everyone that has a desire to see America restored to become involved. Because if you're not involved, you don't even have a chance. You don't even have the right to complain. You become part of the problem instead of part of the solution. We are talking about restoring America back to the foundation. The Bible says, if the foundations be destroyed, what can the righteous do? Our foundations have been eroded by secular humanism, by just like you were saying earlier, by just destroying the family, by basically.
And and how exactly has the family been destroyed? Can anyone please explain that to me? Because I sure as hell don't get it.
Basically, the moral values that have made America great have been practically destroyed, and we have secularized America, and the new religion of America is secular humanism. And why
No, secularism is the neutrality. All secularism is making sure that you can believe whatever the fuck you want to believe as long as you're not imposing it via the government, which is not right. You wouldn't like it if your grandchildren came home with a fucking Quran. So I don't know why you insist you think you have the right to do it to others.
For example, with Common Core, if we're seeing our children being brainwashed, not only with secular humanism, but with socialism, values clarification, situational ethics, where there are no moral values. And so that has caused a great deterioration of our moral fiber, of the foundation that have made America great. We need to go back to those principles that we know work, which is why America has been the bastion of freedom throughout the world for 200 years. We need to restore that foundation.
Oh my god. Yeah, I agree. We do need to restore some things in this country, like, for example, getting money out of politics. It is a fucking shame that the super rich and the rich are getting richer and the poor is getting poorer, and it's a fucking shame that corporations and big pharmaceutical companies are buying off our elections. I agree. That needs to change, but what does not need to change is the separation of church and state, which is clearly something you, Mr. Cruz, want to violate. Moving on. And we have here Louis Gomer, who says that apparently the Supreme Court The Supreme Court declared itself God in legalizing gay marriage.
The Supreme Court, in their decision on the Defense of Marriage Act, if you read that opinion, number one, there were two big issues. Number one, did members of Congress have standing to bring a lawsuit to enforce the Defense of Marriage Act? And number two, was the Defense of Marriage Act constitutional? So the Supreme Court took on the standing issue and said these people, they wrote the law, they lobbied to get it passed, they talked their colleagues into voting for it, they got it passed, got it at the president's desk, it became law. So yes, they have standing. Now on the issue, is it constitutional? No, the Constitution doesn't talk about marriage. You're so well informed, Debbie. You're so smart.
Yes,
That's exactly what the Supreme Court majority said. The federal government has no business getting involved in marriage. Therefore, the Defense of Marriage Act is unconstitutional. So they threw it out. And now they
Yeah, because it violated equal protection under the law, you fucking idiot.
come back in just a very short amount of time, the same judges, and say, you know what? And I guess this was what really disturbs me, and I know we're down to about 40 seconds, but it really disturbs me. For 50 years, the Supreme Court has been saying, okay, less of God, not in the school, not in public, you can't pray, you can't talk about the Bible.
In what fucking country are you living in? Because last I checked, you can still talk about God as long as you're not imposing it on anyone else via the government. I really don't see how it's that hard of a concept to understand. I really, really don't.
Bible. And with that decision last summer, they said, forget what Moses said when he said, a man shall leave his father and mother, and a woman leave her home to become one flesh. Forget what Jesus said, God said, and Moses said. He said exactly, quoted the same thing. Forget what they said. We, the majority of the Supreme Court, are now your God.
No, all they did was say that bans on gay marriage was unconstitutional, which it is because of equal protection under the law. You cannot sit there and say that gay people can't get married because you personally disagree with it. This one's an older clip. It's from August 2005, but just the arrogance of this woman is just irks the hell out of me. This is Tamara Scott, and she thinks she has a few questions here for us about LGBT rights. And as some of you may know, I did recently come out as bisexual, so hopefully this won't be too aggravating for me.
ironic, and it's not even almost, it's risky to even discuss it because they try and create a social jihad when someone even ventures in here, and you know, on social media you are quickly punished, and if they can, they'll get it into your workplace where you are reprimanded and possibly suspended and even fired for even talking about something like this. But if we're going to go along with this, let's confront hypocrisy, because it's the left and the progressives that are always throwing the cards, whether it's the black card, the sex card, the female card, the war on women. You know, right now there's a movement by 50-50, or excuse me, by 2020, the year 2020, they want 50-50 in the House and U.S. Senate. They want 50% male and female by the year 2020. Well, my thought is, how can you do that? You don't even want to call somebody a sex. That's a
No. What? Huh? Who? No. Where are you getting this from? Nobody wants to call anyone a sex. Is that when it comes to, I'm assuming she's talking about transgenders, so if you're talking about transgenders, they just want to be called what they identify as. So just because of that, you think no one is allowed to be called a sex? Like, someone just... I don't know why I torture myself for like this, ladies and gentlemen. I really, really don't. Anyway, back to the video.
Changing one thing every day. So, Doc, you mentioned the word flaming homosexual. That's going to be a lightning rod. Here's what I don't understand. I'm just going to ask a question. For all those haters out there, I'm asking the question. and we got to go to break here in just a few seconds, so you can think about it over break. If homosexuality is something to be celebrated by the left, by Hollywood, then why does it need all of these protections? And if it needs these protections by Hollywood, then why does it need all of these protections?
That's very simple to explain because we have people out there like you who want to discriminate, who want to not serve them, not serve them cake, who are trying to stop them to get married. There's people out there, in fact, there's still states out there now where you can still get fired for being gay. So that's why it needs protection, because there's bigots like you out there who want to discriminate, and you know full well that that's what you want to do. Fucking spare me.
And if it needs these protections, then why do we promote it as an everyday lifestyle and a regular choice for our youth?
Good point.
We've got to go to break. We'll talk about that. A regular choice for our youth.
Good point.
We've got to go to break. We'll talk about that when we come back. And I just asked him a question before we went off air. If homosexuality is truly just something that happens, and then why, when do we have to recruit it in our kindergarten through college level educational system? And if it's just an everyday thing, why does it need all these special protections in the civil rights? So, either it is good or let's understand what it's not. Doc, when parents
Just wow. It needs protection because of people like you. How's that an answer to your fucking question? And of course, ladies and gentlemen, we have the love child of Screechin' Slater from Saved by the Bell. This is Theodore Schubert, who wants quote-unquote atheist books to be outlawed and burned. Okay, and I can already feel the brain aneurysm coming on.
You have these morons, you have these idiots out there who think that, oh yes, we should allow freedom of religion because those French guys in the Enlightenment era with the wigs, they said it was great. Voltaire and all these Enlightenment thinkers, Montesquieu and all these schmucks. To give credit to where credit is due, Montesquieu, while he did believe in freedom of religions, he did not believe in the freedom of atheism. And that is where me and Montesquieu would agree. Montesquieu rejected the idea of giving freedom to those who say there is no God. You can find this in his writings. And that, I totally agree with him. Atheism should not be allowed. Richard Dawkins' books, burn them all. Christopher.
Oh, wow. Nice to know that you want to censor everyone who does not agree with you. There's a... Hello?
Howdy.
Oh, hey. Someone turned up. How are you? Hey, Shu, how's it going?
Good. You reviewing the idiots?
Yeah, I did review a few of them. No one was showing up, so I just started live myself.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm not, like I've said before, I'm not really a deep thought guy, so I was, just responding to what I saw.
Roll on. I'm enjoying your analysis. I'm enjoying watching you just, kick them back in the teeth.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, again, don't expect a lot of deep thought from me, people. Really.
Mitchell, Sam Harris, all these books, burn them. They shouldn't be allowed. They're absolutely dangerous. Atheism.
Dangerous. You mean that it might prove your religion wrong, which it has over and over again? Repeatedly, over and over again, which I might add.
Mormonism, Scientology, occultism, basically anything anti-Christian should not be allowed in society. It's dangerous. It's demonic. And look what it leads to. A guy wants to shoot up a church in Detroit. That's what freedom of religion leads to.
No, that's what bad gun laws lead to.
Insane clown posse, devil worshippers, stabbing people, kidnapping children, raping women. That's what that religion leads to.
No, it's
social norm.
no, it's called everyday society. Oh my God! Tell me this man is not this stupid.
I wish I
Oh,
could.
oh my God! That's in every society. That has nothing to do with whether that society is Christian or not.
Is of abortion. It influenced Hitler. It influenced the commies.
Hitler was a Catholic. He was an atheist. I don't know why you keep saying that lie.
That's what atheism leads to, a giant mountain of skulls and dead people.
Because we all know Christianity has never led to that, right?
Not for the
That's all
last years or anything.
well, not recent years, no, but religion has done its share of things.
Oh, yeah, in recent years, it's done
Yeah.
plenty.
Yeah, I was hoping to have a discussion tonight about. I think you were there offline when I brought up this question. That do you think that through science, the human race can obtain immortality?
Oh, well, in the sense that we'll always have an origin, we won't be infinite, but in the sense that we would not pass away and that we would persist uniquely. I think there has to be an ultimate cessation somewhere in the eventual entropy of the universe. I think the organization that is for the structure required to maintain consciousness will essentially get stretched out of existence through simple thermodynamics of expansion. And space-time just keeps expanding. We have no reason to believe it'll stop. So, yeah, I think it's impossible. I think that we could probably extend human lifespans and even possibly even learn how to map and transfer consciousness if we want to call that continuing to live. You know, there might be a molecular transport type of device that actually dissembles.
Yeah, and then that's the kind of thing.
Assembles
Sorry, go
you
ahead.
on the, and then is it really you? But without getting into deep philosophical stuff and those eddies, the single individuals who didn't do that kind of stuff probably will get around to learning how to replace all the organs, and they're going to do a head transplant, I understand, real soon here with a human. We'll see what happens, and there are all kinds of mechanical devices that are being developed. Who knows?
Yeah, I would like to say yes because of what you touched on, the fact that, you know, who knows, maybe many decades from now we'll be able to, you know, transfer our consciousness into something else.
Mm-hmm.
Damn, it is a dead night. I was anxious for this too.
There's an Asimov story about how how consciousness builds in the universe until the point where the universe becomes one with consciousness at a static point where it then must evolve into a new universe. Very interesting little circular story. I'll see if I can find it. I know it was in an audio format, so I'll see if I can find it and give you the link for it.
Oh, sweet. Yeah. I mean, I think there's tons of things that we're capable of, but I just don't think we can do it now. Like, I personally do think that many decades from now, if we ever advance in I guess neuroscience would be the area, but who knows, maybe 50 years from now, we'll be seeing humans do telekinesis.
I don't know. I don't know about telekinesis, although it might appear to be just the same as if. Um, there'd probably be a certain amount of mechanical translation in between. On the other hand, telepathy is much more likely. Wireless communication, brain to brain,
Oh
and
yeah.
kind of a language being developed external to the Wernicke area where most of our known language takes place. Yeah.
I go ahead.
Telepathy, I'm pretty sure, is not too far away, or at least a facsimile thereof that you couldn't tell the difference. I mean, Bluetooth, it looks pretty close to it, you know? We're just like talking to the air long distance. It's kind of weird.
Oh yeah, I mean, then that's my point. I mean, if like you said, telepathy is not really that far off, then Oh, hey Steve. Who's to say, who's to say that telekinesis isn't far off? Hey Steve, how are you?
Guess what, my friend?
What?
I have a major victory. Guess what I have done? I have helped
Say what
somebody
now?
renounce young Earth creationism.
Oh, fucking awesome.
Wayne
Excellent.
Fillmore, he messaged me today, and he told me, you know what, Steve, I'm researching cosmology, and he's like, yeah, I can't accept the young universe anymore. He's like, the universe has to be billions of years old, and with the discovery of the gravity waves and all that, he's just like, I can't no longer, be a younger creationist kind of thing. I'm like, yes,
Bravo.
Yes.
that's awesome, isn't it?
Fucking awesome.
One
Yes.
more.
I'm so proud of him.
Awesome.
I knew he was heading in that direction. I mean, you guys watched the debate when I explained to him, macroevolution was fact. So he hasn't quite gotten, all the way there yet. Baby steps, right? But I mean, he's accepted macroevolution. He's accepted the universe is not old, or so it's not young. I mean, it's downhill from there. I think,
Yeah, I mean, you still have the God of the gaps at abiogenesis and at initial conditions prior to expansion and Big Bang, but that leaves for a much more rational universe if you get rid of the young Earth creation.
Oh yes, I mean it's just non-tenable position.
It suddenly becomes something that you can deal with in a day-to-day basis of, okay, if you need something that helps get you through the night and it's harmless where we really aren't sure yet and not relevant to like modern medicine, I can give people a pass on that kind of a deity, sure.
Yeah, no, I don't care.
When they want to say that evolution is flawed, I'm glad I'm teaching someone evolution, getting someone to accept evolution when they have decided that they've chosen faith instead. Period. Is an amazing accomplishment. I'm in your. I have great admiration for you, sir.
Awesome.
I don't know that I have the patience.
Well, he's in still a gray area. He accepts evolution to a point because he accepts macro and micro now. He hasn't got yet to common descent, but again, it's downhill because you can't really have one without the other. So he's in that transition stage that I think people go through when they come out of young Earth creationism. But the fact that he realized that the universe cannot be 6,000 years old, I mean, there's just no physical way. That to me is the most important thing. And like I said, these if you haven't noticed, these AIG and all them have been. Oops, where'd everybody go? Patrick, you came in and you scared everybody away, my friend.
Yeah, what the hell, man? Oh no, Pat's here. Get out, go quick. What the hell happened? You were. Oh, there he is. You must be having internet problems. Sorry about that.
And so.
Oh no, that was me. Sorry.
So. With the discovery of the gravity waves, these creationists have been awfully quiet, and I'm like, I don't think they realize that this is. We've had their death nail before, but there's no possible mechanism or model that young Earth creationists could come up with to account for gravity waves like this. There's just none. There is nothing they have besides complete bullshit.
Oh no, is there an actual thing going on about gravity waves now with creationists?
No, they've been awfully silent on it. And that's I was just telling Atheist Ranger and Sherry that Wayne Fillmore finally came out today and said he's no longer a young Earth creationist. He looked at the data and said there's no possible way the universe could be young.
Oh, somebody who was saying is changed. Oh, thank goodness. Scared me for a second there.
No. He looked at the data, and especially I think the gravity waves were like the final thing because, we know that they're 1.3 billion years, ago and then past. It just we can show people that using the data, the amplitude of the data, how far away it was. So, yeah, I'm just stoked. I'm just like, okay. I mean, this is a major accomplishment. That somebody was critical enough and had enough intelligence and personal integrity and intellectual honesty to look at the data and go, you know what? Yeah, Hovind's wrong. And that crew.
Cool.
Yeah, I kind of lost connection a little bit there, but yes, again, bravo. Very, very good.
Very good. I'm proud of you.
Can I get a cookie?
Yes, you get a cookie.
Well, actually, I just added you to like 3 of my circles. Is that okay?
Oh, yeah.
I added you to. It sounds like you're a scientist of sorts, so I'll put you in the scientist. And if not, you're at least a science enthusiast. So I put you there.
I'm a science enthusiast.
Okay. You're not a scientist?
Sorry, go ahead,
No, I didn't.
All right. I'll have to cut that one off, I guess. Let me see.
But I mean, looking at the data for these gravity waves. I mean, it's just my mouth was like the other day. I was stunned. I was like, how come somebody hasn't told me this? I had to discover it in the news. And not only was it unlike the last time, this was data that they've had for a while, and that they've had researched and peer reviewed it, and
well, I mean, you sound like a scientist. You sound like you know what you're talking about.
Well, I got a background. You've talked before, Patrick.
Yeah, I think we have. I just never managed to.
I was a naval nuclear power engineer in the Navy.
Well, then I'm putting you back in the scientist. I'm putting you back in there. That's all there is to it.
I graduated from Naval Nuclear Power School, Knowledge Atomic Power Laboratories, but I'm kind of an enthusiast for everything, cosmology, biology.
Yeah, I was looking at your profile just now, and it said Naval Nuclear Power School, and I'm like, okay, this guy's a scientist in my book.
Well, it's a good thing that I got 2 scientists in the room, because me and Shui, I don't know if you guys saw the headline for this particular Reality Sunday, but do you think that through biology and through science, humanity will ever be able to, I guess, reach some type of form of immortality?
No. I mean, it's my opinion that true immortality comes from those who remember you and how much you're remembered. But actual physical, biological immortality is not in the...
Yeah, you got to remember, you have entropic losses, and there's entropy going to be involved. And there's no possible way, by true definition of immortality, could ever be possible, just because of entropy and the fact that what's going to happen 5 billion years from now. I mean, the sun's not going to be around. The universe is going to be completely different. In another 20 billion years, it's pretty much going to be all photonic energy, probably. And you cannot. How are you going to survive in that kind of the thing? Even if you have immortality.
Let me just get rid of one of these. I mean, yes, the age expectancy is going to increase, double, triple, even, who knows, in the next several hundred years. And I mean, in our lifetime, the age expectancy has increased, and in our historical data, it has at least doubled. So.
Oh, definitely.
So I mean, certainly the age expectancy is going to. I mean, I can see in a few hundred years that the average lifespan might be over 100, maybe even 150, and there'll be people that are living up to 200, But we're still looking at hundreds of years, not thousands.
Yeah, I mean, you figure how many body parts can be replaced now. I mean, we can put artificial replacements in for a lot of things. I mean, heart, lungs, There's a lot of body parts that can be pretty much replaced, including even some appendages.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it. My father, who's going to be 91 in a matter of a week or two, is still alive because of a pacemaker he's wearing inside of him. So, I mean, if it wasn't for that pacemaker, he might have been dead already. My grandfather, his father, died at 80 years old, and he was a heavy smoker. So, you know.
The biggest problem we have to get around, there's something called the Hayflick limit. And what the Hayflick limit is how many times a cell can divide. It's usually on the average about 40 or 50. And what happens is at the very end of your chromosomes, you have this thing called a telomere. And each time each time it splits, each time a cell goes through mitosis, that end becomes shorter. Okay, and each time it becomes shorter, there's more chances of it degrading and basically fusing with another chromosome. It just dies. The cell dies. So this is what happens towards the end of life expectancy. Your cells cannot regenerate anymore, or they become cancerous. They don't have the mechanism to repair themselves anymore, and because of apoptosis, start dying out. So that's one of the things. If we can get the technology to prevent these things from happening, or understanding how cells die the way they do, it's called program death. That would be a major step, not into our immortality, but as Patrick said, leading us to maybe increasing our life expectancy of another 50 to even 100%.
Wow, you really do know a lot about this stuff.
What? Yeah, but I mean, well, I think Sheree and I were talking about maybe, was it transferring consciousness into something else? I mean, would that be possible or no?
Suggesting the possibility of mapping consciousness and either I don't want to say uploading, I want to say replicating it, and then whether it really is truly the same being, even if it's mapped exquisitely. But you just made me think about something else too. That resistance to apoptotal cell death is exactly why bad beliefs are so persistent in the brain, because those cognate structures don't want to be broken down. That's equivalent to cell death for a lot of neurons there, and that's why bad ideas are so persistent, and why it's so significant when you actually are able to reach through to somebody and help them make the new connections for a better perspective on their reality, you know?
Yeah, I agree. I think it is a self-defense mechanism. But the only problem I see, okay, your brain being a bunch of neurons all in a neural network, I mean, it's a symptogenic effect. It's basically, the way they're wired is an exponential thing for memory. The amount of memory we're able to process, the amount of calculations we're able to do is astronomical because of the way the wiring is done. And so I don't think that we could ever get to the point where we can put it in a non-biological system. I think there's things with biology that it cannot translate directly over to an inorganic substrate.
You know, there was an unseen podcast about this, and it has to do with AI, and the idea, in fact, exactly what you're saying about the possibility of sooner or later having the technology to actually save your brain, your programming, yourself, your I, your id, whatever, as a conscious being into a computer, a far future computer. Some of the guys in the Unseen podcast, especially the host, saw it coming much sooner than I can see it coming. But I think sooner or later it might come. And I told them that I plugged the biological thing in myself. I said, I don't see AI becoming a reality, a real strong AI, actual sentient machine until it becomes a biological machine. You know, maybe the quantum computing, maybe, I'm not sure, but right now it's basically silicon and rocks. You know, I mean, it's you can pretend the program is sentient, but it's not going to be actually sentient until it starts programming itself. And he'll argue that, yeah, we got programs that can do that, but I mean, actually making decisions and, you know, having feeling. I always talked about emotions. You know, that was the iRobot thing, or the Data on Star Trek. It was always about the emotions.
Well, a difference between an emergent property, emergent intelligence, and what I think they're talking about, where they're taking a already existing consciousness and transferring it to a different medium. I think
Yes.
the only way we
You
could
think it would be
determine
possible or
that.
no?
Well, here's the critical experiment that needs to be done. I know it sounds hackneyed, but it really is what I think would be a pivotal experiment to be done. If we could develop enough computer power to literally quantum entangle everything in your body and transport you, right? Just like quantum teleportation, only over a distance. Again, this is way out there, but if the consciousness went along with it, if the person is able to do that and live, then yes, I would think there would be a possibility there. If no, then no, there wouldn't be. Or the other option would be somehow find a way to try to demonstrate duality, which I don't think can be scientifically demonstrated, but
I think it goes back to the Frankenstein story. It's the brain, put the brain in another body, and I think the downloading the data, the actual stuff that's going on there in the brain into a far advanced computer would be basically transferring it to a new body. Of course, the body would be anything, sitting on top of a desk or number of networks, or even maybe as science fictions like to do on a robot with appendages. But I think it's like a Frankenstein story, more or less.
See, I think
Frankenstein for real.
I think the limiting factor really at this point is our mapping of the human mind, the brain, and what it actually does. For constructing something that has emergency properties and so forth, that is an engineering issue. I don't think that is at all impossible. I think it's a rational pursuit. As far as transferring of human consciousness into another media, another substrate, as you mentioned, I think again that the engineering is going to happen if and when we actually have human consciousness mapped out, but we're not even anywhere near close, and it's really
it's not necessarily mapping it out.
That we're really concerned with here on the cerebral cortex. It's not even that much comparable tissue compared to the entire brain itself.
Well, I mean, it's not as much as mapping it out as it is figuring out a way to treat it as if it was a hard drive. But then, of course, you'd have to have the interface. Like the Matrix had the plug in the back of the neck kind of thing. But I mean, to actually be able to plug in, that's not exactly.
We were talking about that a little bit ago too, about the idea of telekinesis is kind of like, well, there'd be some more engineering challenges to that than there would be to just like telepathy, where we might have some kind of wireless implants that we communicate in, and we may or may not even be our native verbal.
Well, let's not add the woohoo into it. Let's not do it.
No, actually, no.
What I mean to say is actually plug in, or like you said, wireless, to be able to transmit the signal in some way to get it into the other computer is what I'm talking about.
Telekinesis actually exists artificially already. We have artificial telekinesis.
All right. Well, what I mean to say is the actual interface, whether it be wireless or direct plug-in. Well, we do actually have some going right now. Like, for example, there's been the artificial limbs that have been able to they've been able to attach lobes to the head and have a monkey control an arm and stuff like that. So I mean, there is some interface going on even as we speak, but it's just a matter of getting it
right. I mean, they've integrated electronics to biological cells. That actually definitely has been around for quite some time actually now.
To actually have a plug, like a USB drive in the back of your neck or something, or.
Yeah, well, where would you interface it at? I mean, it's just I don't know if it could be that integrated, but I mean, we can send out obviously brainwaves, and those brainwaves can be detected. We have technology that can detect those things and transmit into movement. I mean, we've had that little. You've seen that little guy that developed that little hover thing, and you move it with your mind. That's artificial telekinesis. It's all done by brainwaves and brain activity.
Yep.
It's more of electrical it's more of a transmitter than anything else. I mean, it's
Right, but
it's not force being put onto something. It's a radio transmitter that transmits signal.
No, but again, it's the same thing. If you have an implant for wireless transmission for telepathy, and that kind of described magic is it's the in the science it's misunderstood is indistinguishable from magic. You know, that's the idea.
Well, yeah, but we're not talking about science that's not understood.
But that's what we are talking about.
I think
that's how mortality, etc., and that's where we were starting from. The aspects.
Most great science achievements were started off with science fiction, and we just kind of modified them and said, okay, this may not work 100% scientifically, but we can modify it and make it artificially happen. So, but the idea started science fiction, sure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, it goes both ways. Little do a lot of people realize that good science fiction writers are also not necessarily scientists, but well versed in the science, and to make it a believable thing, and they push the envelopes to make it fun. But essentially, these scientific ideas become science fiction when they're still far off into the future, and just not. And a lot of times it's just fantasy. Sometimes it's real. Star Trek did the transporters because of budget. They couldn't have the budget to have a stage, what do you call it, to have a ship land on every planet they visited. So they said, all right, why don't we just create a transporter? On the other hand, the desktop computers were first visited in Star Trek, one of the first episodes. Everybody had basically a computer on their desk. So that became a reality. I don't know. There's a few others, but the transporters are definitely not matter antimatter engines, not warp drive, but matter antimatter engines maybe. But right now we can only create antimatter in very infinitesimal small amounts. But
tricorders.
Well, tricorders, yeah. I mean,
a tablet is a tricorder nowadays.
Basically, put enough sensors on them.
Oh yeah, no, my tablet is pretty good for sensing shit. It can do accelerometers. It can actually detect a lot of things.
Star Trek was also set much further off into the future. I liked some of the other, however poorly done they may have been for TV, the other concepts like the $6 Million Man. A lot of the technology that was presented there as super high-end spy technology kind of thing, you could find someone receiving today as prosthetics. So
right. And now we've got something, the closest thing we've had to replicators. We have 3D printing now, which is not exactly a replicator, but we got kids printing his own prosthetic hand. It's not motorized or anything, but he became the coolest kid in school because he went from being bullied about his missing fingers to having a prosthetic hand that he printed himself.
Can you print a 3D printer using a 3D printer?
Yeah, I posted a couple of videos about it. I didn't post my video. I shared a couple of videos about it.
Because if so, those things should be propagating universally.
Well, it was there's a whole thing about it, and I'll see if I can find that. I'll see if I can find my old post, and I'll reshare it if I can find it again. There's a whole charity thing going on with it and everything. Kids getting prosthetics now. These things are not motorized and stuff, but they're because the high tech prosthetics can be a lot of money. They can't afford them. They never really get them. And by the time they finish their high-tech prosthetics, they grow out of it because they're kids and they're growing. So these things, the kid, they have to be able to afford the plastic that go into it, but they cost, like $100, that sort of thing. And as the kid grows, he prints up another one that fits his growing hand, stuff like that. So it's really interesting, and there's a whole like charity thing going on about being able to give these things to people, the kids especially, that need them.
Nice. So another quick question about for the somewhat three scientists in the room. Do you think it's possible that maybe hundreds of years from now we can just generate entire limbs without having to use any artificial technology?
Yeah, we can grow. I mean, we're again not a scientist. I hate that term because I just like science. But yeah, I mean, we've already been able to grow body parts. We've grown ears on mice, for Pete's sake. We all know that. And I think that we can grow our meat. I think eventually we can get to the point where when we know enough about how stem cells can differentiate to form specific types of cells, whether they be neurons or they be muscle cells, and how the Hox genes actually do the control of these things. It's called epigenetics. They call it basically gene expression. And once we learn all this stuff of how this stuff works, then yeah, I don't see why it's that difficult at that point to grow entire limbs. I mean.
And that might be less than hundreds of years. I'm sure within 100 years they're going to be getting close to that. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean,
oh yes, that would be fun.
I mean, lizards grow tails back. I mean, things do grow limbs back, and I think that if we could do really work on that mechanism, then yeah, we could start with a single cell and program it to make a limb. I mean, if we can make an ear, it's just a little more complicated for an actual other limb based upon genetic code.
Yeah, I mean, there's animals on this planet now that actually grow back limbs and stuff. So there's study into those particular animals.
Yeah, I mean, we're animals. So if they can do it, either we can grow it back or we can make it artificial and then attach it at some point.
Yeah. Not to plug the Spider-Man movie that had that in there. The lizard guy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this may be going off on a tangent, but since we do have ancestral relationships, to common ancestry to everything else. Now, granted, we are far removed from lizards, obviously.
Yeah. It's a matter of finding the gene that causes limbs to grow and things like this.
Yeah, but they probably developed that later on after the branching. That's why I'm expecting why that's probably not viable, because now that I think about it, they probably developed that ability long after our last common ancestor. So we wouldn't have that gene, but we might be able to gene splice or take that particular gene and put it in our genome and see what happens. Be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yes.
But like the original question was about immortality, and it just, like I said.
Well, I mean, I think I cut off before you guys could hear me. I think I said a type of immortality. That's why I brought up what me and Sheree were talking about, which is possibly putting human consciousness into something else, like that.
That would be somewhat of an immortality.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah. But as far as age limit is concerned, I can see humans getting older and older as the decades and the centuries go by, but I don't see them reaching 1,000 years. I don't see us reaching 1,000. Maybe, I don't know. Who am I to speak anyway?
Well, yeah, but computers is a different mechanism than the brain. I mean, the way the brain works is completely kind of different. I mean, you've got a lot of shit going on up there, with all kinds of sugar transport and electrical firing, the neurons and dendrites. It's not even the same type of substrate than a computer would be, or a silicon wafer, or even a quantum computer. Could they be interrelated? Yeah, we've done that, but I don't see taking the human brain and mapping it to a silicon type system. I just don't see how that would be possible.
Yeah, that's what I was saying to the Unseen Podcast people. I see when we talk about when a computer becomes artificially intelligent or becomes aware, self-aware, and I mentioned that I think, in my personal opinion, it seems to me that it would have to be a biological system, something biological. He mentioned that the software was biologically influenced or motivated or something to that effect.
Yeah, I have to say I don't honestly see it either. However, there's a lot of technology that we have currently that has been engineered that I did not expect to see in our lifetime, and it's here.
Yeah,
I
I
want
mean,
it
there's
to
always
be
going to be that.
here,
There's always going to be that.
you know.
Yeah, there's
Some
always the
stuff.
unknown factor. I mean, nobody's saying that things are talking absolutes.
Mhm.
But, you know, at the current paradigm and the current modeling, I would say it's highly unlikely. That doesn't mean it's impossible, though.
Well, I mean, some of the very first science fictions, Metropolis, you know, the fear of the robot, you know, the computer taking over the world, you know, kind of thing. You know, it's that's been around since before I was born, and I'm 56 years old. So, you know, so that's like one of the first science/science fiction questions that keep coming up over and over again, and artificial intelligence especially. So that's one of the very first, you know, the Terminator stories, the you know, things like that.
I think this
yeah, I wrote
will become more and more convincing, but I would have to agree. The idea of the transference, even to another biological structure, I think there would be diminishment of of what had become through its own experience and well, if you will, microevolution.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't see the transferences.
I'm not sure if you can just. I'm not sure if you can just replicate the state consciousness and call it the same thing. But then that comes down to if you do have molecular transport devices that just like break down the information, send the code, and reassemble on a molecular level at a different place.
I kind of agree with you. I don't see the transference of somebody's consciousness into a computer. I would say that if that's going to happen, it'll happen after true AI comes about first. I think that would have to come by first. If a computer can be literally aware, or at least potentially be aware, then that computer might be able to hold the type of human brain, or even any animal brain for that matter, you know, consciousness.
All right.
I don't know. I'm just swagging it here. Scientific wild ass guess.
No problem.
We're talking about the mapping of the brain, and you're right. When you get down not just to the neuronal, but to the chemical level at any particular moment of state consciousness, there, you're talking about variables that are a number of variables that are astronomical and to the best of our reckoning, incalculable, even by our best automation at this time. So,
well, let me posit this, because this is where I would see the impossibility lying. Okay, even at the brain level, there's quantum things going on. Okay, we have to realize there's quantum tunneling going on. We know that between different barriers of different potentials. We know we have quantum tunneling, quantum fluctuations. These are all things that are uncertainties. These are all based upon Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. They're all non-deterministic. They're stochastic processes. We cannot ever reproduce them because we just don't know. The information is not there to even transfer over. So if we're going to make some kind of substrate where it's a silicon-based or let's say even a quantum computer, as you guys were suggesting, we could never, ever transfer over all the inherent information in the brain on that level because of that problem that we run into, is that we can never even get to the point where we can get to the quantum level to transfer things over, and the fact that the information doesn't exist in certain places. Even decay modes have types of decays where information doesn't exist prior to the decay. It just basically decays. There's no reason, there's no rhyme, there's no cause to the effect. Same thing with spontaneous fission, radioactive decay, and there's a whole bunch of things that can do that. So I think the problem would be that we can never actually make the brain that way. I mean, make an artificial brain because of the quantum problems we'd run into.
Yeah, but when you make something, I'm sorry.
we might make a very significant facsimile thereof, but it would still be just a simulation. It wouldn't ever be equivalent to the
Agreed. It
same.
wouldn't be
See,
you.
but see, when you make something to do something and be able to hold information, it's like just the desktop computer I'm using right now. A human hand didn't actually make the chip; a machine did, because a human hand couldn't possibly solder millions of gates on one little square thing. It's not that we have to be able to manipulate something quantum sized. We don't. We have to be able to store information. We have to be able to create the machine that's able to do that. Just like the we don't control the electrons, singularly that flow through the computers that we're using right now. But in fact, that's exactly what's happening.
Correct. But what I'm saying is, though, there's things in the brain, whether it be information or non-information, that we can never transfer over. It would never be an exact replication. It would never be you. It would never be able to have a consciousness like we have, just because of the inability to exactly replicate the situation going on in your brain. There's no such thing as a perfect copy. You're always going to have entropic losses. You're going to have problems in any copy. So therefore, I think even at the quantum level, the differences are going to be so vast that it'll never produce you. It'll never produce a consciousness. It'll be a facsimile, but it's not a real consciousness.
Yeah, I'd have to agree on that one.
I won't necessarily even agree with that. I would suggest that it may actually be a consciousness. It simply will not be the same consciousness that the biological agent was. It will be a new and different consciousness that has been established in a new and different media that is a very close proximal simulation of the original, but is a new and different copy, like you said.
Yeah, it's kind of like the cloning idea. Should we even do it? But yeah, I mean, I agree with both of you. It's like yes and no, no and yes, But again, I'm gonna fall back on my original thinking that before that technology even occurs, let's just take just for the sake of argument, say it will happen in 500 years from now. Before that happens, the computers that we are building have to be AI, self-aware, capable. Not necessarily already self-aware, but they have to be capable of being self-aware before that actually can happen with any, valid, transfer of a consciousness, of an awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it's just transferring files. It's just like I'm talking into the computer and the program that could type my words out. It's just transferring words.
The hardware itself has to be able to support such.
Right. It has to be able to run that that platform.
It has to be able to support such an epiphenomenon arising from naturally developing heuristics in a freely associating neural network.
Yeah, it's exactly. In other words, it has to be capable of doing that before you could actually think about doing it.
And we're at the very early, very primitive stages of it, but we are at the early stages of doing that. So it's.
I recommend a science fiction story, audiobook especially. I got the audiobook by Douglas Preston, and this is the same one I recommended to the Unseen Podcast people. The Kraken Project. It's about a NASA space probe that was designed to go to Titan, specifically the Sea of Kraken on Titan. And the science fiction goes that NASA needed an artificially intelligent program to run this thing while it was there. Make a long story short, a young woman, a genius of sorts, she came up with a AI program that did become self-aware and escaped into the internet, ended up blowing up a facility in NASA, and the story goes on. It gets really interesting. It's all kinds of shit going on with the corporate nonsense and killings, and it's all parts of the story are fun. But anyway, I won't go into the whole thing. But it is about a program. She didn't even believe it was self-aware. She still believed it was just programming tricks. But then after a while, she started to realize that this thing she created became aware.
Alrighty, I'll have to check that out. Okay, well, before I cut this, I would actually like to appreciate the people who came. Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Sheree. Thanks, Patrick. And before I cut the live feed, I would very much like you guys to plug yourselves if you wish. Go ahead, Steve.
Well, actually, thank you. I have something to plug. I will be having a on-air informal discussion with a gentleman that runs a website called Young Earth Creation Creation Science Books, I believe the name it is .com. He has written a book about creation science, about young earth creationism. His name is Jay. What was it? Jay West. I have to go check my notes here. But he's going to be coming on, and we're going to be talking on Tuesday and Wednesday. It'll be going out when I post, obviously, the feed to all my circles. So if anybody's interested and they're not in my circles, then have them add me and add my YouTube page, and then I add everybody who adds me, and then when I do my invites, they'll go out to like 300 some odd, 400 people. So, but I'd say it should be interesting. A lot of his arguments that I've looked at so far look pretty typical, but he says he has some new ones, and I'm always looking for new arguments because the other ones get kind of boring. So that'll be happening Tuesday, Wednesday. Keep your eye out for it.
Alrighty. Patrick, you want to plug yourself or plug someone else?
Well, I can plug the Unseen Podcast, Paul Carr. As far as the creation science, nothing against you, Steve, but that's an oxymoron, and I have a general policy to avoid all such discussions. I might peek in on it once in a while and see what's going on, but yeah, I steer away from those things.
Yeah, that's okay. I'll take them on. Like I said, if I can convert Wayne out of young earth creationism, then there's hope for anybody. And the guy's name was Jay Hall, by the way, Jay Hall. So he looks like he's been around for a while and understands young earth creationism. So if I could convince him next, that would be a dramatic thing. that young earth creationism is wrong.
Therefore, God, no.
Sheree, do you want to plug yourself or someone else?
Oh, I don't have much to plug. Yesterday was my birthday, and I got the best birthday present ever. Forgive me for being so callous and morbid, but Antonin Scalia died, and I danced a jig.
Yeah.
And
so did I.
And
so did I, man. That dude was a big...
Condolences to his friends and family. However, that does not outweigh me celebrating him being no longer oppressive towards the number of people who he, with intent, harmed and then mocked afterwards.
Oh, yeah.
So,
I was jumping for joy as well, my friend.
Well, happy belated birthday. My birthday's today, by the way, too.
I'll be lurking around in various hangouts. I'm
going to do my birthday.
Oh, nice. How old are you, Steve?
I'm 46 today.
46 today?
Should we help?
I was 53 yesterday.
Woohoo! Yeah. Well, we got to
birthday.
teach these young kids in their 20s the errors of their ways. That's the only good we do anymore. Don't let the mistakes we made, right?
Oh, you guys taught me a lot tonight, man. I mean, most of the time I had no idea what you were talking about, but I mean, you taught me a lot.
I guess I'm the old fart in the group.
Man, seriously though, man, Patrick, every time you've entered my hangout, you're always the oldest man in here.
I have the habit of trying to preach the science, or at least preach the ability to learn science and stop the stupidity and
Amen, brother.
you creationist kind of thing.
Amen, man. Amen.
So I try to reach the young crowd, I guess.
Well, I'm telling you, Patrick, these gravity waves are death nail to younger creationism. I mean, I'm not saying that they didn't have a death nail before, of course. Things have death nails, but
I hope so, but I'm the kind of person that really wished it wasn't even equated with that. In other words, I don't even like to think that somebody would even think about it being the death wave. I would think that creationism is a stupid thing that should have been gone a long time ago. But I love to talk about the science of gravity waves, and I can even give you an explanation of how I heard it explained and stuff. So it's exciting. Chalk up another one for Einstein because it was his gravity waves that he predicted.
I really didn't think so. I figured they would, but I didn't think we'd have the technology to be that sophisticated. I mean, we're talking on the scale. I mean, 1/1000th the into 1/1000th of a proton. I mean,
Yeah,
1/1000th
something like that. Yeah,
protons.
so yeah, so what they did was, in order for them to verify that this wasn't, you know, like,
guys, wait a second.
oh, I'm sorry.
We can talk. Sorry, we can talk about this off air. I just want to cut real quick. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Reality Sunday number 5. I'm your host, the Atheist Ranger. I appreciate everyone coming. I will see you all later.